We then used spray foam to waterproof the bed and then filled the bed up with water. Early on in the YouTube world, Rob Ferretti had this brand called Super Speeders, and he made a name for himself selling DVDs. Again, this is pre-YouTube, when he actually he would literally be selling DVDs out of the trunk of his car at auto shows and things like that. So when the YouTube started getting bigger, and this I had gotten to be friends with them at Auto Rocks, and so we had a good reputation of just having good banter back and forth. I get a call from Rob, and he's like, "Hey, got anything going on? A couple weeks. I have an idea. I want to bring you up here, and we want to shoot this video with Matt Farah." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll come. Sounds fun." So I get there, and Rob's got this idea. He's like, "I want to do a $500 car challenge." At the time, you don't realize that you see all these videos of these amazing supercars, and you get to be around all these classic cars and all these things, but I don't think that, and Matt will tell you the same thing, I don't think we've ever had as much fun, true, unbridled, not giving a shit fun in a car than we had in Rob Ferretti's $500 car challenge. So Rob's idea was that we were going to go out and find 3 cars for $500. We were going to swap the keys and modify everybody's cars a little bit, and then we were going to drive them from his place in New Jersey to the Trump Casino in Atlantic City. And we were going to valet them at the casino, and whatever car made it there and back, there was going to be a prize. We go out and we start shopping for cars. Rob does this intro on video, and this is, he's telling us what's going on. So we find a 79 Pontiac Grand Prix. We find a Mitsubishi Mighty Max pickup truck, and we find a Volvo wagon that had previously been used in other rallies. So it already had like a Swedish flag on the hood and had some other stickers on it, and it had been previously enjoyed. I drove the Grand Prix, Rob got the Mighty Max, and Matt got the Volvo. So we start playing with everybody's cars. Well, the Grand Prix we end up cutting the roof off of. To understand the level of this car, the Grand Prix didn't turn off. And when I say it didn't turn off, I mean like you would start the car, it would run fine, but when you turn the key off, it just kept running. And it wasn't dieseling or detonating, it just, the ignition didn't turn off. So to turn this car off every time that I would get out of the car, I would have to pop the hood, I would have to unplug the battery, I would have to flood the carburetor to the point where the engine stalled, and then that's how we turned the car off. And then I'd have to plug the battery back in and start it up, and it ran great. And there was so much rust on this car. If you kicked a panel, rust would fall on the ground. There was rust all over the hood. It was just a northern car and had been definitely worth $500. So we end up cutting a Targa top and putting a John Deere green racing stripe on the car. All kinds of funny stickers, all kinds of things. I found a bobblehead Jesus that we put on the dashboard. It was just hilarious. Matt's Volvo, we decide to remove the doors, but we felt like it was kind of unsafe to drive with just no doors on the front. So we found the child fences that you would put in a hallway to keep the kids or your dogs or whatever from going back and forth, and we managed to modify them so that they worked as his door. So here he's driving this Volvo with like fencing to keep him in. But that wasn't enough. So we go through and in the video, if you ever watch it, you can see it's absolutely legit. If you ever are wondering if a Volvo is well built, there's a scene where Matt takes a trailer hitch and tries to break the window on the Volvo and cannot break this window. And this is a solid piece of metal with the trailer ball on it. And he smacks this multiple times on this window. Like by the third swing, he's getting mad and he's actually putting some effort into it. Couldn't break the window. He ends up throwing it from a distance into the window, and I guess it must have hit a corner and it shatters. But we broke all the glass out other than the windshield on this car, so that Matt had to drive with no doors and no glass. The Mitsubishi was interesting because poor Rob, again, we blew out the back window and all of the glass in the truck. I rewired the turn signal so that every time he went to turn left and use the turn signal, the horn would go off in synchronicity with the turn signals. We then used spray foam to waterproof the bed and then filled the bed up with water, so that every time he would hit the brakes, the water would come into the cab. And what we didn't tell Matt on his car was that we also did it with Rob's, but Matt thought it was a funny idea that we would put flour in the air vents. And if you went to turn the air conditioning on, you would get flour all over you. Well, Matt thought it was funny to do it to Rob, but we did it to Matt and didn't tell him. So again, you can see that in the video. But we drove these cars down the turnpike and just Everything that you ever wanted to do in a car, we did. I ended up driving the Pontiac on the interstate, and at some point, it started knocking. And you hear it in the video, it just starts getting louder and louder and louder. And then the RPMs are going up, and it's louder and louder. And it eventually just stops. So come to find out that when I bought the car, I never checked the oil, and there wasn't any in it. So we pulled the license plates off the car, left it on the turnpike. I jumped in the Volvo with Matt, and we went the rest of the way. But there are scenes where Matt's driving with sunglasses, and we've got a white stick with a red tip that looks like we're blind, and we're driving with the stick out the window. We would get out and like beat on each other's cars in traffic and get videos of the reactions of the people around there. Rob's like, I always wanted to try the thing where you have the door open and you back it up into a pole and it bends the door back. I always wanted to try that, so we did that at a gas station and ended up having to tie the door closed because it wouldn't latch closed again. The production crew was essentially Tom Morningstar and JF, and we had a couple of camera guys that each one sat shotgun, and then we had a Range Rover as a chase vehicle in case anybody broke down. We could jump into that. But the production crews was us with handheld cameras. I mean, that was it. We didn't have lapel mics. We didn't have all this crazy lighting. It was low budget production, handheld cams, and it looks like it, but it made it fun. So the funny part about the cars was my car got left on the side of the road. The Mitsubishi ended up getting shipped down to Florida, and it ran. I mean, that truck ran. It was the base model, no power anything, Mighty Max, you couldn't kill it. I ended up giving it to my little brother, and he drove it for almost a year as just a beater truck. He sprayed it flat black, and he drove it everywhere, and we just couldn't kill the car. He ended up selling it to somebody else who then fixed the back window, and to this day, it may still be driving for all I know, but it was still driving years after. The Volvo, we had a follow-up video where we decided to turn it into a convertible. And we sawzalled from the windshield back. We took all the A-pillar and the B-pillar, or the B-pillar and the C-pillar, and we sawzalled everything off, flipped it off, and Rob drove that car. He would pick people up from the airport in the car. We did some off-roading in the car in one of the videos that we could not kill this Volvo. It was amazing. And the only reason the Volvo is not around anymore is that Rob had it parked at his place. He was living in an apartment complex at the time. He had it parked there, and the management thought that it was abandoned. And they towed it and had it impounded. And then the impound lot ended up destroying the car. And he sued them over it because it was licensed, it was registered, it was insured. It was perfectly legal. They just assumed from the looks of it, it had been abandoned. They never even checked that it was up to date on everything. He didn't notice it for a couple of weeks. He came down and he went, "Where's the Volvo?" And then come to find out it had gotten towed and got impounded and it was gone. And yeah, it was a whole big story. But that poor car, I have a lot of respect for the older Volvo wagons. That car is a brick, because it is. It is built like a brick. The thing was, is back in the day, when YouTube was first starting, there weren't anything like that on YouTube. There was no videos of people doing, maybe you get a video of a guy speeding, or there was a couple of, I'm going to show videos of me drag racing. There was a car does a wheelie on a drag track, whatever. The uniqueness and the creativity that Rob had to be able to release a video like that, we see it now all the time. You've got guys building, trucks into tractors and doing all these crazy things. And the videos, it's the sky's the limit. But really, that video, if you ever look it up and you see it, you can see the video quality was really terrible. The acting, if you want to call it that, that we did was really bad. But it was such innocent fun. And it was a couple of guys that had been around. Rob had videos prior to that where he's, pushing a shopping cart around with a Ferrari 360, and then they did the, who can get a ticket first video. And when you really go back and think that Rob was one of the first ones to ever break into that genre of just crazy car videos that nobody had ever seen before. And love him or hate him, he really set the tone for what a lot of these guys are doing nowadays. And I'm honored that I was a part of one of those videos and one of those series to be able there. But I still, if you were ever to meet Matt and ask him, he will tell you to this day that we had more fun doing that video than anything else. And he's taken that to some of his other videos where he has his, take the S-Class out into the desert and shoot it with a machine gun, or any of the other kind of crazy videos that he did early on at the Smoking Tire. There's a lot of times where if you just don't care what happens and you just have a good time, you can have more fun in a car than you can, driving a Lamborghini, at 200 miles an hour all day.
Between cannonballs and rallies and car treks, I've been on well over 100 road trips, but one of the things that I always see is that nobody else is terribly prepared. And this is not just a jab at Freddie, but generally people don't bring the tools, the supplies, and the things they need to make it all the way to the destination of their road trip. And so I decided, after building kind of the kit that I take between cars for the long drives I go in unreliable vehicles, as the ultimate road trip survival kit. And you'll find a link in the description below to an Amazon shopping cart of the things that I think you need in order to get there and get there without a tow bill attached to it. So check it out now, buy what you think you want, let me know in the comments what I left out, and we'll try to keep refining it so we can build the ultimate road trip survival box.